a little bit controversial about some of the things that people really take for granted. And one of them is this idea of soil moisture. A lot of folks are like, well, there's a traditional way to do this, and that's working. Well, I'm going to say it's not. Really, I think traditional methods for figuring out if your soil is moist enough and your crops need to be irrigated or not are at best case guessing. So what we've done is we're looking at this from a different perspective. What we're saying is that you really need to see what's going on at the active root zone. So AquaSpy provides actionable data that farmers and their crop retailers can understand and will give them the insights to know exactly what they need to increase farm profitability. Because really, it's about profitability, not necessarily yield. So that's my second controversial point. Historically, we've all been focused on yield and this idea that the more yield, the better. Well, particularly these days, with the scarcity of water and the prices of fertilizer and inputs, that's going to lead to a lack of profitability. And really, what we all want to do is get up each day is we want to make a profitable crop. So with AquaSpy, what we've created is a system that has data collection. So we have sensors underground. We have a 3, a 6, and a 12 sensor probe. The sensors are all 4 inches apart. And what that does is that goes into the ground and it sends data throughout the day to the cloud. So the farmer doesn't have to go out in the field and gather this data. We're sending it to the cloud. That also allows not only the retailer, but also the farmer to have immediate access to this information. So throughout the day, this data is sent to the cloud. Our algorithms process it. So we've got a lot of intelligence that we've built over the plus 10 years that we've been in the field. And our data is processed, and that creates a summary chart that's really easy to understand. This is tuned to the crop type, so the curve tells you what's going on throughout the crop season. And it's really easy to say, well, did I get down here? Is it dry? Should I irrigate? And then you can actually see the upward sloping line shows the crop uptaking the water. And that's the important part. It's really not, is it wet or dry? Did I turn my pivot on or not? It's, did the crop use the water that's available at the important active root zone that it needs? And so that's what we provide. The important thing here that I'm going to make the distinction is that it's really about where the active root zone is. And so as that's going through, we're providing that information and making sure that you have data, not only that is it wet or dry at the active root zone, where that's coming to, where the crop is growing to be next, but also things like salinity, EC salinity, and temperature as well. And those are all really important things to know as far as a healthier crop. We're always innovating at AquaSpy. So one of the things that we have come out with this year is a program called Pay As You Grow, Prophecy Pay As You Grow, that's beneficial to both the retailers as well as the grower. And what that is basically, we all have a cell phone, right? So this is basically a cell phone program for your crops. We've got everything all bundled in. You don't have to buy the hardware separately, just like with your cell phone, and then you pay a monthly service cost and you get that data. So it's really very easy to do. The other thing that we've done this year is, if you're familiar with AquaSpy, we have traditionally had a solar-powered comm tower that's connected to our probes, our underground probes. Well, this year we've come out with a battery-operated version of this. So this totally eliminates all of the wires. It takes care of a lot of things. It makes it less of a hassle for the retailers, the agronomists to install, and it adds some benefits to the farmer as well. I understand that critters like to chew on those wires, so no more critters and wires. A little bit about us. We've been 10 years plus, so we're not a startup. I call us the world's oldest startup, right? So we've been around. We're trusted. We've been in the fields for over 10 years. And I think actually with this last year, we're probably in more like 1 million acres managed, even more than 850,000. We're in 16 countries. 120 dealers that we work with, and we have over 19 million data points collected. And so over that time, we've seen that on average about a 25% increase in farm profitability and yield increase. So what's the missing link here? One of the challenges, and I've heard about this all day, yesterday, today, that the piece that's a challenge is how do we all share the data? How do we complete the loop? How do we provide the proof that ties back to this yield data that we want? So a couple of the things that we have been doing at AquaSpy is that we have been working with University of Nevada, UNL TAPS, since about 2017. They do some really wonderful studies, and I'll share one of those here in a moment. We're working with partners such as Seedway, and they're doing head-to-head pilots in their fields. And also, farmers are really hesitant to share data, but they like a little bit of incentive, and so we've actually just done something really simple. We've been providing Amazon gift cards, and we've been able to get about 2,000 or so data points. I'd like to get more, but so far we've been getting enough data points on how are your yields performing that it gives some really good stuff to our data scientists that they're in crunching some numbers. And we're really finding some interesting things that kind of go against the norms of like, when exactly in the season should you be irrigating deeply or shallowly or whatever. So stay tuned on that because we're going to have some additional reports out on that later this year. So this is the study. Come over here. Okay, look at number 39. All right, so look at 39 there for a minute with the yellow bar on it. So if you look at the top end, the maximum yield, this always makes me frustrated. The grower with the maximum yield is always pouring on water and pouring on nitrogen. So of course he wins year after year. But you can't keep doing that. He's not getting a profitable field. He's maxing his yields. But these days, that's seriously wasting money. So if you look at number 39 there, what you see is that he got a really good yield, but with nearly minimal inputs. So he was able to use the process control by following our summary and applying his inputs at the right moments when the crop needed it. So he got a really good yield, but he won the profitability contest. He or she. Might have been a she. Sorry about that. All right, so this is the interesting head-to-head comparison that Seedway is running in their watermelon fields. So watermelon's it's a little bit different than corn and soy, but watermelon's an interesting beast. So normally, the tradition has been water it pretty frequently. I'm sorry, I did that backward. Few but deep irrigations. Few but deep irrigations. And so that's been pretty traditional. But you can kind of see, if you look at the green chart, over here, they got below the green line, and that's bad. That means those watermelons were struggling. Nobody wants to eat one of those watermelons that are all dry and mealy. That was what one of those was going to be. So what they did is they said, okay, well, let's do better and follow the green band here. So you can see they stayed really well in the green band, but they watered completely differently. They ended up with constant but shallow integrations with this, totally different than how they'd been doing it before, but they got an excellent yield from that. So this has been some really interesting, thought-provoking, like things aren't necessarily the way you assume or how you've been doing this in the past. So that's really what's going on with these learnings and how this is changing the opportunity. So that actually is the end of my talk. And Eric's given me the signal. So if you have questions, please stop by booth 210 and see us and find out more about this technology. Thank you.